California Governor Gavin Newsom and Democrats are lying to you when they say that Trump's big, beautiful bill cuts Medicaid and welfare programs for the poor. Coming up, we've got the receipts proving that the only people that should be worried about the big, beautiful bill are illegal immigrants and fraudsters, all who are currently being helped by Newsom and Democrat policies. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative. You've heard it in the lying liberal media. They've been basically on an all-out narrative, a false narrative, attacking President Trump and Republicans for cutting Medicaid and health programs and welfare programs for the poor. Oh, but the children. It's all a lie. And we're going to present to you the proof of what actually is happening with the reforms in the big, beautiful bill and why taxpayers should be happy because it's going to save a lot of money and prevent fraud, and why even the people who are poor who rely on these programs should be happy as well because it's in their best interests, provides them with the aid and assistance that they need, while also helping them get out of poverty and dependency. Before we get into the receipts that I'm going to present showing that Newsom and Democrats are lying and why they're really trying to protect a fraudulent system that they have built up over the years, I need you to help us get the word out. That's why we have at Reform California our Doge California campaign. We hire investigators and researchers to pore through budgets and to come up with the facts and present them in podcasts like this, and as well as other news and information programs that we send out to voters, particularly in target seats. But we can do none of this work without your help. So please go on the website, reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org, chip in a contribution. And at the very least, if you can't contribute, please sign up at the bottom so that you are tethered into our growing movement to take back California from the far left insanity that it's gripped by. All you have to do is put in your first name, last name, email, phone, and zip code. Why is that important? We will give you updates on what's happening in your part of the state, how you can attend events, get involved with supporting good candidates. And of course, we have our California Voter ID initiative, as well as our Taxpayer Protection Initiative that we're getting on the ballot for 2026. And we're going to need your signature on the petitions to make sure that those things get a full public vote in the next election. So sign up at the bottom of that website at reformcalifornia.org. So Governor Gavin Newsom, here is just one of the various propaganda pieces he's putting out. Governor Newsom slams Trump over a bill that cuts millions in health coverage, food assistance for California, but the children. He's talking about the big, beautiful bill. And by his misinformation, he says that it's going to cut $28.4 billion in federal Medicaid funding and put food assistance at risks for hundreds of thousands of Californians. That's the claim that they're making. $28 billion in cuts. People will lose this most important assistance for food and healthcare. It's a lie, a complete, utter lie. And there are three things that the big, beautiful bill really is trying to address. And it's all about, well, preventing waste, fraud, and abuse, and making sure that these programs actually help rather than hinder people's ability to become self-sufficient. Because isn't that what this is all about? Welfare programs are there not for handouts, because the American people do not believe in handouts. We believe in help, helping people when they're down on their luck, but challenging them to fix the problem, to become self-sufficient. That's the American way. It's fair and it's compassionate, but it also needs accountability. That's where the American people are. That's where I believe Californians are. But that's not where California Democrat politicians are, including Gavin Newsom. He likes his dependency system. He likes, well, turn on the money spigot, let it flow, and don't worry about the fraud, the waste, and the abuse. So there are three things that the big, beautiful bill does that Newsom is claiming cuts. The first is the big, beautiful bill says that fraud has to be eliminated or at least reduced in welfare programs. We're sick and tired of paying out fraudulent welfare payments for people who are not eligible and for people who basically bilk the system, who are not even real people, who a lot of these scammers apply for benefits with fictitious people. Look no further than Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom is like the king of welfare fraud, and the liberal media refuses to cover this story. But let's go back to 2020 when Newsom shut down the economy, then told everyone go apply for basically unemployment benefits. The federal government came along and said, oh, since we're shutting down in 2020, and you know why we shut down. Can't say the word on YouTube or else it suppresses us. But billions and billions of dollars that the federal government wrote a check for. Well, California, in managing these unemployment benefits, had a massive fraud problem. So big that $32.6 billion in fraud was given out. And that's documented fraud. Newsom took out a loan because the federal government, even under Biden, said, we don't pay for fraudulent benefits. Here are some disallowances. So the loan was $20 billion. Newsom never paid the loan back. So this year, in this year's budget, guess what's happening? Because of the fraud that Newsom allowed, there's a payroll tax that's hitting small businesses. For every single employee, the payroll tax is going up, which means California is less attractive to create jobs. Newsom is the king of welfare fraud. And along comes a big, beautiful bill, and Trump says, we're not going to backfill your fraud anymore. You've got to do the right job. The way welfare programs work, the federal government largely writes the checks. Most of the money comes to the feds. Some of it comes from the state. It's a matching program. But the feds write the check. If someone's eligible for welfare, the feds write the check. But we rely on states to actually implement the program, to review people's eligibility, to manage the benefits, to pay out the benefits, to audit and hold people accountable. California politicians aren't doing their job. They're negligent. They're allowing the fraud, as are other state politicians. So in the big, beautiful bill, Trump has said, we're going to crack down on fraud. And if a state has a fraud rate that is way above the national average, we're not going to pay for it. So for example, food assistance, because remember, Newsom talks about hundreds of thousands of Californians getting thrown off of food assistance. Well, there's a reason why he's raising that. In the big, beautiful bill, Trump is saying if a state has a fraud rate of more than 5% in food stamp benefits, they'll get a penalty on what the federal government's willing to reimburse for food benefits as a whole. The state will have to pay more of that money, because why should we be giving money to a state that's mismanaging its program and allowing a lot of money to be wasted? We should actually give an incentive to hold politicians accountable in that state to clean up their act, protect the taxpayers. Pretty simple, right? Everyone following? That's what the big, beautiful bill does. It says for any state with a 5% or more fraud rate, we're going to give a penalty in the food assistance. We're going to reduce slightly what we reimburse the state for. You know what California's food stamp fraud rate is for the SNAP program? 13.6%. Okay, almost 3 times what the big, beautiful bill allows. As a taxpayer, you should be wickedly pissed. The media should be clutching their pearls and screaming about fraud, fraud. What do we do to prevent the fraud, Governor? But instead, they're giving Gavin Newsom a pass because he's their favorite little pet. They always protect Newsom and his ineptitude and incompetence. Here you have this scammer, this governor who allows for welfare scams, complaining about the fact that he's not done his job. And now Trump is saying, we're going to hold you accountable. So the first thing that, and by the way, the food stamp program having this fraud detection requirement and penalty, there are other programs like that in the big, beautiful bill. I'm using that as an example, but I use it as an example because Newsom's screaming and yelling about it right now. Second thing is the big, beautiful bill says, hey, welfare should not be a permanent thing. You should get it when you're down on your luck, but you should be out there looking for a job. And so we're going to do a welfare to work requirement. The welfare work requirement says 20 hours. You should be trying to get 20. Now, there are a variety of exemptions for people who simply can't do the 20 hours. But the main thrust is, in this economy where employers are seeking employees all the time, you should be able to get a 20-hour job if you want free assistance. At least try. Well, that's what the Democrats are screaming and yelling about. And in fact, this week in Senate Bill 119, and I'm going to share a clip on this in just a moment, of me opposing this bill and speaking out and exposing what's going on, Democrats eliminated a bunch of welfare to work requirements that the state imposes. So we're going in the wrong direction in California. And what the big, beautiful bill is trying to do is say you need to have work requirements for welfare programs because the American people do not want to be taken advantage of. We're willing to help with compassion, but we have accountability. So welfare to work requirements are being eliminated in California, as the big, beautiful bill says, no, we should actually be doing these things. Again, in order to qualify for Medicaid, there will now be a work requirement for many recipients, not all. Again, there's a variety of reasonable exemptions. But no, the Democrats are saying that a work requirement of 20 hours for free health care at taxpayer expense, oh, that's such a burden. Can't do that. So what Newsom is saying is a bunch of people don't want to get a 20-hour job, and then therefore they're going to lose their benefits. That's not Trump's doing. That's the person deciding, I don't want to work 20 hours. That's not a Trump responsibility. That is the person who's decided not to govern their life in a way that's responsible. The third thing that happens under the big, beautiful bill, and I wish it would do more, but it does enough, at least as a start, is it eliminates certain payments to illegal, undocumented immigrants. And this is so important because we are dangling the carrot in California with freebies and taxpayer-funded handouts to illegals, and that draws them here. And it's offensive because legal immigrants, they don't want the handouts. They just want an opportunity, and they're following the law and going through the process the right way. The people who are scamming us are coming here illegally and then saying, give me the welfare. Trump says no. So, for example, we're seeing several provisions in the big, beautiful bill that have penalties for California and other states that simply allow rampant illegal immigration and then expect the federal government to get to reimburse for costs like emergency room visits and healthcare. That's not going to be allowed. There will be a penalty applied to California, and you need these penalties because otherwise, the state of California doesn't care about the welfare fraud and illegals getting all these goodies because, hey, the federal government's reimbursing it. Although in the state of California, not only are they getting money from the federal government, they are also forcing you, the state taxpayer, to shell out billions and billions, $12.5 billion in free healthcare alone under Medi-Cal, for free healthcare coverage for undocumented illegal immigrants. This is what this debate is all about. And you know what? I want this debate in this country. I think we ought to have a debate as to why are we allowing fraud in these welfare programs, scammers? Why are we not holding people accountable to lift themselves up and become self-sufficient? And why are we prioritizing the interests of non-citizens over citizens? I would love to have that debate. Game on, baby. Newsom, you come, you show up anywhere if you have the courage, and let's debate that with facts and truth, not this misinformation that you're pumping out. And of course, the liberal media parrots. I urge you to help us spread the word. As I mentioned earlier, we're getting this show out. We're getting other news articles out on this topic at reformcalifornia.org. We have our Doge California project. Chip in a contribution so that we can run ads and distribute these news programs out there to target seats, target voters. And then, of course, sign up at the bottom of the website, first name, last name, email, phone, and zip code to be part of our growing movement to take back the state from the far left insanity that it currently is gripped by. Until next time, I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, and here is a clip of me on the assembly floor calling out the Democrats for Senate Bill 119 that eliminates welfare to work requirements and explaining to them what I just explained to you. I rise in strong opposition to SB 119, and it is so important because this bill epitomizes a debate that we're having right now across the country as it relates to the federal budget, the big, beautiful bill. There's been a lot of claims made about the federal government budget and impacts that it might have on constituents in each state. This is why there's so much misinformation about that debate. And I want to set the record straight so that California taxpayers know exactly what's going on with today's bill that we're voting on. SB 119 is exactly the problem that taxpayers are crying out for a solution to. It penalizes taxpayers by allowing waste, fraud, and abuse in our welfare programs. And it continues a sick cycle of incentivizing dependency in our society. Look, Californians are fair people. Whether they're Democrat or Republican, all Californians believe in giving people a second chance and helping those who are willing to help themselves. SB 119 makes a mockery of that well-intentioned commitment that Californians have. For example, for CalFresh, this bill continues a pattern of abuse where California is one of the worst offenders when it comes to fraudulent benefits for food stamps. The way our federal government funds welfare programs is they write the checks largely. We write some of the checks, but mainly welfare programs are funded by the federal government. But the federal government depends upon states to get it right, to actually be competent in the administration of these benefit programs and hold people accountable. We have done an absolutely miserable job of that task. We have a 13.6% erroneous fraudulent payment rate in CalFresh. We are the worst state when it comes to giving people money at taxpayer expense that they're not eligible for. Now, under the big, beautiful bill, they have said that if a state does not get their fraud rate down to 5%, that we will be issued a speeding ticket. We will be penalized. And this is a good policy for California and national American taxpayers, because why would you want to reward California bureaucrats who are inept at their job? This bill contains zero reforms to the CalFresh program to deal with the erroneous payment rate. Those fraudulent payments are on our back, the lawmakers and the governor's back. This is not unlike the $30 billion in fraudulent payments that were issued under the California Workers Unemployment Insurance Program. $30 billion, which, by the way, the governor took out a loan, and now you just raised taxes on working families with this budget, small businesses with this budget, with a higher payroll tax. Second, let's talk about CalWorks. CalWorks actually lessens welfare to work requirements in the state of California. Again, a slap in the face to California taxpayers. California taxpayers are willing to give people a hand up, not a handout. It comes with strings attached. What we simply say is, look, we're going to give you some welfare, but would you at least try to find a job? We have small business owners that are saying that they are eager to hire people in this economy. But we have people who are unwilling to go out and take a job. The federal government will be imposing welfare to work requirements, but this bill, while those requirements are being imposed, actually goes in the opposite direction. And finally, this bill does contain billions of dollars
30 seconds
in welfare benefits to people who, frankly, are not eligible anymore, including illegal immigrants. Every dollar that we waste for people who are not a citizen or not eligible or not capable of getting out there and trying to get a job is a dollar less that we have to spend on people who truly need the help. So if you want to help Californians who need it, start in our own backyard, welfare to work requirements, get rid of the fraud, and let's put citizens first. SB 119 fails on all three of these counts.
Thank you, Mr. DeMaio.
I urge a no vote.
Thank you. Assemblymember Sharp-Collins, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and colleagues. I rise today in support.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.